You ever have that feeling? That quiet little thought in the back of your mind that something just isn't right, but you push it down because you want to believe things are still good? That's where I was when we packed up for that beach trip. It was me, my wife Lisa, and a few of our close friends. We booked this big rental house near the coast, pool in the backyard, grill on the patio, 1 block from the beach. Perfect spot. Perfect weather. Perfect way to fix whatever had been feeling off between me and Lisa. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. The weirdness had started about 6 months before. Nothing crazy at first, just small stuff. Lisa staying out later after work, laughing at her phone a little too much, turning it face down when I walked into the room. I asked her once if something was going on. She smiled that big, easy smile of hers and said, "Come on, babe. Don't be jealous. You know I love you." And I wanted to believe her. God help me, I did believe her. So when our friends suggested a group vacation, a week of sun, beers, and no responsibilities, I thought, yeah, this is exactly what we need. A fresh start. We drove down on a Saturday morning. The house was even better than the pictures online. Whitewashed walls, giant windows, palm trees swaying just outside. You could hear the ocean if you listened close enough. Everyone was in a good mood. Even Lisa. Laughing, joking, hugging our friends, sliding her hand into mine. For the first time in a while, I thought, maybe I've been crazy. Maybe everything really is fine. The first few days were good. We hit the beach, grilled burgers, played stupid card games that somehow got way too competitive. Lisa seemed happy, relaxed, and I started to let my guard down. One night, a couple days in, we all decided to walk down the beach to this little bar someone had found on Google Maps. It wasn't much, just a shack with Christmas lights strung up year-round, cheap beer, and a jukebox that only played old country songs. Perfect. We ordered drinks, grabbed a big picnic table outside, and settled in. That's when I noticed it. Lisa and one of the guys, we'll call him Chris, were laughing a little too much together. You know how you can feel it, even when you can't quite explain it. I tried to brush it off. Told myself, they're just friends. You're being insecure. Don't ruin a good thing. But that voice in the back of my head, the one I'd been trying so hard to ignore, it got a little louder that night. A couple more beers, a couple more jokes, and next thing I knew, Chris and Lisa were off playing darts together inside the bar while the rest of us stayed outside. Someone joked, maybe they're teaming up to hustle people. Everyone laughed. Except me. I just sat there, staring into my beer, telling myself, don't overthink it. Don't be that guy. When they finally came back out, Lisa threw her arm around my shoulders and kissed my cheek. Like nothing was wrong. Like everything was perfect. And maybe it was. Maybe I was just tired, or drunk, or paranoid. Maybe. But then again, maybe not. The next morning started just like you'd expect when you're on a beach vacation with friends. Coffee brewing in the kitchen, the smell of bacon and eggs already filling the house, someone laughing too loud at a joke that probably wasn't even that funny. It was supposed to be a perfect morning. I rolled over in bed, half asleep, expecting to find Lisa there next to me like she always was. But the bed was cold. Empty. I rubbed my face, telling myself it was no big deal. She was probably downstairs helping with breakfast or setting up for another day at the beach. Still, it didn't sit right. Not after what I saw last night. I swung my legs out of bed and sat there for a minute, staring at the wall, trying to push down that uneasy feeling. I told myself, don't start your day off being paranoid. This trip is supposed to bring you two closer. Stop ruining it in your head. I threw on a t-shirt and some board shorts and headed downstairs. There she was, Lisa, standing at the kitchen counter, laughing at something Chris was saying. She looked beautiful in that easy, effortless way she always did. Sun-kissed, hair pulled up into a messy bun, still wearing one of my old sweatshirts, the one she always said smelled like me. For a moment, my heart actually lifted. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe I just needed a full night's sleep and a strong cup of coffee. She turned, saw me, and her face lit up. Morning, sleepyhead, she said, grabbing a mug and pouring me a coffee, just the way I like it, 2 sugars, no cream. I smiled back. Or at least, I tried to. She walked over and handed me the cup, and for a split second, her hand brushed mine. It should have felt familiar, comforting. Instead, it felt forced, like she was trying a little too hard to act natural. I took the coffee, mumbled a thanks, babe, and sat down at the big farmhouse table where everyone was gathered. Chris shot me a grin from across the table. Big plans today? He asked. Thinking about just parking my butt on the beach all day, I said. Everyone chuckled, and for a while, things felt normal. But then, in the middle of all the chatter, I caught it. A look. Chris and Lisa, their eyes met across the table. Quick. Quiet. Barely noticeable if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention. There was something in that look. Something that made my stomach twist into knots. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't fear. It was connection. Familiarity. Like two people sharing a secret. I looked down at my plate, forcing myself to laugh at a joke someone made about getting sunburned. Pretending I hadn't seen anything at all. Pretending I wasn't dying inside. The rest of the day played out like a postcard. Beach umbrellas. Coolers packed with soda and beer. Sand stuck between your toes. Sun so hot it made the air shimmer. We played frisbee. Built a half-collapsed sandcastle. Tried to body surf on the tiny waves. Everyone was having fun. Or at least, everyone acted like they were. Lisa was laughing a lot. Smiling a lot. And she looked happier than she had in months. But when Chris was around, it was different. Subtle stuff. Like the way her hand would brush his arm when she laughed. Or how she leaned in just a little too close when he showed her something on his phone. Nobody else seemed to notice. Or maybe they noticed and just didn't want to be the one to say anything. Either way, it felt like I was the only guy on the beach who saw the cracks forming right in front of him. By the time the sun started sinking low, painting the sky all kinds of oranges and pinks, I felt like I'd been holding my breath all day. We packed up our chairs and coolers and walked back to the house, the sand cool under our feet now. That night, everyone decided to hang out at the house instead of going back to the bar. Someone put on music. We grilled burgers. Played card games around the big kitchen table. Lisa sat next to me, her arm draped casually across the back of my chair. It should have made me feel loved. Safe. Instead, all I could think about was how that same arm had rested a little too comfortably on Chris's shoulder earlier that afternoon. Maybe I was being crazy. Maybe I was reading into things that weren't there. I told myself that over and over. But the thing about your gut? It doesn't lie. It whispers at first. Then it shouts. When the night wound down, people started drifting off to their rooms. I stayed behind, sitting out on the back deck with a beer, watching the stars. The ocean was just a low rumble in the background. The breeze smelled like salt and grilled meat and something bittersweet I couldn't quite place. After a while, I heard the screen door creak open behind me. Lisa. She padded out barefoot, wearing that same sweatshirt and a pair of shorts. She didn't say anything at first. Just came over, curled up next to me, and laid her head on my shoulder. I stared out at the stars, my beer warm and forgotten in my hand. She sighed. That deep, content kind of sigh that people let out when they're exactly where they want to be. And for a split second, I wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe that whatever I thought I saw today was just a bad dream. But deep down, I knew better. I wrapped my arm around her anyway, pulled her close. Because even though part of me knew I was losing her, another part of me wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. The next morning, things felt different. Not loud different. Not obvious. More like how the air feels right before a storm, heavy, sticky, tense. Lisa was already up again when I came downstairs. She was sitting out by the pool with a cup of coffee, legs stretched out on a lounger, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Chris was there too. Of course he was. He was leaning back in another chair, arms behind his head, laughing at something she'd just said. When Lisa spotted me through her sunglasses, she gave me a little wave. Almost like an afterthought. I waved back, but something in me tightened. I grabbed a coffee and sat inside by the big kitchen window, where I could still see them but where they couldn't see my face. The rest of the group started waking up, sleepy good mornings, the smell of fresh pancakes, but my eyes kept drifting back out the window. Watching them, trying to catch every glance, every laugh, every casual little touch that maybe wasn't so casual. At some point, Lisa leaned over to show Chris something on her phone. She tilted the screen toward him, her hair falling across her face. He leaned in closer. Too close. Their heads almost touched. I watched Lisa laugh at something he said, tossing her hair back like she was 17 again. And him, well, he looked at her like she was the only woman on the planet. It hit me then hard and cold. This wasn't just harmless flirting. It wasn't a vacation crush. There was history there. Maybe not a long history. Maybe it had started just recently. But it was real. Real enough to tear everything apart. I sat there, my coffee going cold, feeling like an outsider in my own marriage. I wasn't stupid. I knew what this was. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It was right there, playing out in front of me. The worst part? Nobody else seemed to notice. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. Maybe they thought it wasn't their business. Maybe they didn't want to rock the boat. But I felt like I was drowning while everyone else was just floating along, sipping mimosas and planning the next beach trip. Later that afternoon, we all piled into a couple of cars to head into town. Ice cream, little souvenir shops, the usual tourist stuff. Lisa rode with Chris. Not with me. I stood there by the car for a second, keys in hand, watching her slide into the passenger seat of his truck, laughing at something he said before the door even closed. One of our friends, Ginny, gave me a weird look, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. I just smiled like everything was fine, because what else could I do? We drove into town, me following behind them, watching Chris's truck the whole way like some kind of pathetic detective. At one point, they pulled over at a gas station, and I saw Lisa hop out to grab a couple of drinks from the mini-mart. Chris stayed behind in the driver's seat, sunglasses on, arm hanging out the window. Like he didn't have a care in the world. Like he wasn't sitting there with my wife riding shotgun. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. That evening, after dinner, everyone decided to hit the beach again. Last full day of the trip. Gotta make it count. Bonfire. Marshmallows. A few guitars someone found in the house. It should have been a perfect night. But sitting there on the sand, watching Lisa and Chris share a blanket, because it's cold, all I could feel was that growing, hollow ache inside me. It was like watching someone slowly erase a picture of your life, one tiny, casual brushstroke at a time. Lisa caught me looking once. Our eyes met across the firelight. And for the first time, I saw it. The guilt. It was quick, gone almost before it was there. But I saw it. She looked away first, laughed at something Chris whispered in her ear. And just like that, whatever was left of the night shattered into pieces I couldn't pick up. I barely slept that night. Kept tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles above me. The house was too quiet, except for the soft crash of waves in the distance. Around 2 in the morning, I finally gave up. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake anyone, and wandered out to the living room. The place looked different at night. Empty. Lonely. I stood there for a minute, just listening. And that's when I heard it, faint voices, coming from the backyard. I moved to the big sliding glass doors and pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. And there they were, Lisa and Chris, sitting together on one of the pool chairs. Too close. Way too close. They weren't doing anything, technically. No kissing. No touching. But you didn't have to be a genius to see it. It was emotional. And sometimes, emotional is worse. They were whispering, faces inches apart. Lisa was laughing quietly, brushing her hair behind her ear the way she always did when she was nervous or excited. Chris leaned in closer, his hand hovering near hers, almost touching, but not quite. My heart pounded against my ribs so hard I thought it might crack them. I stepped back from the window, my hands shaking. I should have gone out there. Should have said something. Should have dragged her back inside and demanded the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I turned away, sat down on the couch, buried my face in my hands. I stayed like that for a long time. When I finally looked again, they were gone. The chairs were empty. The backyard dark and still. I went back to bed. Lisa was there, curled up under the covers, breathing slow and even, like she hadn't just been outside with another man. I lay down beside her, staring into the darkness, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. The next morning, everyone was buzzing around the house, packing up bags, cleaning out the fridge. Vacation was over. Time to go back to real life. I played along, smiling, joking, loading the car like nothing was wrong. Lisa acted normal too. Maybe a little too normal. At one point, she slipped her arms around my waist and whispered, "I had so much fun this week. I love you." I nodded, forcing a smile. I love you too. But inside, I didn't know what I felt anymore. We said our goodbyes, took a couple of group photos on the porch, promised to do it again next year. And then we drove off, me and Lisa in our car, heading back to our life. She chatted about work, about the kids, about redecorating the kitchen. I barely heard her. My mind was replaying that scene by the pool over and over again. The way she smiled at him. The way she leaned in. The way he looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered. When we finally pulled into our driveway, Lisa leaned over and kissed my cheek. "I'm gonna take a quick shower," she said, grabbing her bag and heading inside. I sat there in the car for a minute longer, staring at the dashboard, feeling completely hollowed out. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Pretend everything was fine? Confront her? Leave? But before I could figure anything out, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, expecting maybe a text from one of the guys. Instead, it was from Jenny, the friend who had given me that weird look by the car in town. I opened the message, and my blood ran cold. Hey, I don't know if I should be telling you this, but you need to know. Lisa and Chris weren't just flirting. Attached was a picture. Blurry, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Lisa, Chris, kissing behind the bar after everyone else had left at night. I don't even remember getting out of the car. 1 minute I was sitting there, just staring at that text from Jenny. The next thing I knew, I was standing inside my own house, key still dangling from my fingers, feeling like an absolute ghost. Everything was too quiet, too still. You could feel it in the air, that heavy kind of silence that tells you something bad's already happened, and you're just catching up to it. I set my keys down on the little hallway table. They made a small clinking sound, way too loud for a house that was supposed to be alive. That's when I heard it. The shower upstairs was running. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But then I heard it. Laughter. Hers. And someone else's. A man's. My whole body locked up for a second, like my brain didn't want to move forward. But my feet, they kept walking. Step by step. Up the stairs. Past the wedding pictures we'd hung on the wall years ago. Smiling faces, happy memories that suddenly felt fake. When I got to the top, I could see the steam rolling out from under the bathroom door. The door was cracked open just enough to see through. I wish I could tell you I hesitated, that I gave her the benefit of the doubt one last time. But the truth is, some part of me already knew. I stepped closer, slow and silent. And there they were. Lisa, Chris, in the shower together. She had her back pressed against the tile, her arms wrapped around his neck. Her head was tilted back, laughing softly as he kissed her neck, her shoulder, everywhere he could reach. Chris had both hands on her, holding her like he owned her. And Lisa, she wasn't fighting him off. She wasn't hesitating. She was pulling him closer, wanting more. I stood there, hidden in the shadows, just watching. It was like my brain couldn't catch up to what my eyes were seeing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a drunken accident. This wasn't a one-time slip. This was two people who knew exactly what they were doing. He kissed her mouth, slow and deep, and she kissed him back like they were the only two people left in the world. Her fingers were tangled in his hair. His hands slid down her sides, gripping her hips, lifting her up against him. She wrapped her legs around him like it was second nature. Their bodies moved together, slow at first, like they were savoring it. Not rushed, not frantic. Like it was familiar. Like it was normal. Like it was theirs. Not mine. I should have looked away. I should have spared myself. But I didn't. I stood there like an idiot, taking it all in, every touch, every kiss, every whispered laugh between them. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Hit record. I didn't even think about it. It was pure instinct. 30 seconds. Maybe 40. Long enough to get everything I needed. Their faces. Their hands. Their bodies pressed so tight together it made my chest ache. I caught it all. The way he whispered something in her ear that made her giggle. The way she kissed his jaw, his neck, slow and sweet, like she couldn't get enough of him. The way she looked at him. God. The way she looked at him. That used to be the way she looked at me. Once. When I had enough proof, I quietly ended the recording. Stood there for another long second. Long enough to memorize the scene, in case someday I ever doubted myself. In case someday she tried to tell me I was crazy. That it wasn't what it looked like. Trust me. It was exactly what it looked like. I turned away, careful not to make a sound. Walked back down the stairs. Out the front door. Into the thick, sticky air of the evening. The heat hit me like a slap, but I barely felt it. I made it down the street before my legs finally gave out. I sat down hard on the curb, elbows on my knees, head hanging low. And then it hit me. Not like a punch. Not like an explosion. Just a slow collapse from the inside out. Tears started leaking out before I even knew I was crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet. Like the last bit of strength draining out of me. I sat there for what felt like hours. Watching the sky darken. Listening to the world go on around me, cars passing by, sprinklers kicking on, kids laughing somewhere down the block. Life kept moving, even if mine felt like it had stopped. Eventually, I wiped my face, pulled out my phone, and saved the video twice, once to the cloud, once to the backup drive I kept in the car. Just in case. Because I knew what was coming next. and I wasn't going to walk into it blind. I stared down the street at my house, the place we built together, the place where I thought we were safe, and I realized it was already gone. That house wasn't mine anymore. Not really. It was just a shell now, full of broken promises and quiet betrayals. I knew I couldn't stay. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Tomorrow, there would be decisions to make, conversations to have, papers to sign. But tonight? Tonight, all I could do was sit there. Sit with the wreckage of what I thought was real, and start figuring out how the hell I was supposed to rebuild a life from the pieces she left behind. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the blank TV screen, letting the anger settle deep into my bones. Not the hot, wild kind of anger that makes you throw things. No, this was cold, sharp, focused. The kind of anger that makes you plan. Because the truth was Lisa didn't just betray me. She disrespected me. She thought I was stupid. Thought I would never find out. Thought she could have her little secret life right under my nose and still come home to a husband who paid the bills, who fixed the garbage disposal, who took out the damn trash. Not anymore. By the time the clock hit 3 a.m., I had a plan. A real plan. I wasn't just going to leave and let her keep everything. The house. The car. The life we built. No. She made her choice. Now she could live with the consequences. First thing I did was grab my laptop and start digging. See, years ago, when we bought this house, Lisa had been so busy with work that I handled all the paperwork, which meant her name never made it onto the deed. The house was mine, legally, fully. I pulled up the documents to double-check. There it was clear as day. Her name was nowhere. Strike one. Next, I checked the bank accounts. Over the years, Lisa had pushed to merge everything because we're a team. Funny, though. When I looked closer, I found that she had her own private savings account tucked away, something she never mentioned. Hidden money. Probably saving up for a new life with Chris. Cute. But I had her beat there too. Because the main checking account, the one the mortgage, utilities, and everything else came out of, that was tied to my name. My income. And hers? Mostly part-time work, side gigs, nothing substantial. She thought she was clever. She wasn't. Strike two. Finally, I dug into the cars. The SUV she loved so much, the one she called her baby, registered under my name, financed through my credit. Guess who still technically owned it? That's right, me. Strike three. By 5 a.m., I had everything lined up. I sent a quick email to a divorce attorney, not some guy off a billboard, either. A real shark. Someone who specialized in complex, high-asset separations. Exactly what I needed. I set up an emergency consultation for later that day. After that, I stood up, stretched my legs, and looked around the house. Our house. Except now. It was just mine. I grabbed a couple of empty boxes from the garage and started moving through the living room. One by one, I started packing Lisa's stuff. Her books. Her little decorations. The framed pictures of her friends. Anything that screamed hers. Gone. Into boxes. I wasn't rough about it. I didn't smash anything. Didn't break a single glass or rip a single photo. No. I packed everything neatly. Calmly. Because I wanted her to see it when she got home. I wanted her to walk into this house and realize she didn't belong here anymore. When I got to the bedroom, it hit a little harder. Our closet, full of her clothes, her shoes, her perfumes lined up on the dresser. Memories. Fading fast. I took a breath and started pulling it all down. Box after box. Dress after dress. Shoes she wore on our anniversary trips. The perfume she wore on our wedding night. Didn't matter anymore. It all went into boxes. At one point, I found an old photo of us tucked into the back of her jewelry drawer. Us in Mexico. Sunburned, laughing, drunk on cheap tequila. For a second, my hand froze. For a second, the sadness threatened to creep back in. But then I remembered what I saw last night. The shower. The kisses. The way she gave herself to him like I was nothing. I dropped the photo in the box without another thought. By the time I was done, the entire downstairs living room looked like a moving company had come through. Her whole life packed into neat little piles. Waiting. Waiting for her to walk through that door and realize what she'd done. I wasn't gonna scream. I wasn't gonna throw her stuff on the lawn like you see in the movies. No. Too easy. I had something better planned. When Lisa came home, she'd find a note taped to the front door. You have 48 hours to get your things and leave. This house is mine. The car is mine. The accounts are mine. The life you threw away, mine. I'd already called a locksmith, too. They'd be here tomorrow afternoon to change every lock in the place. She wouldn't be getting back in after that. And if she tried? Well, I had the lawyer on speed dial. In the video, the one I took through the bathroom door. The one showing her and Chris in full color. Proof. Unshakable. I wasn't gonna post it online. I wasn't a monster. But if she fought me in court, tried to play the victim, tried to come after the house, the car, the money, that video would land right where it needed to in front of a judge. Cold. Simple. Final. By mid-morning, everything was in motion. I sat down on the porch, watching the sun rise. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt calm. Not happy. Not yet. But clear. I had a plan. A way out. A way to take back what was mine. And if Lisa thought she could betray me, humiliate me, and walk away smiling, she was about to learn a very, very hard lesson. I was sitting on the porch when she pulled into the driveway. It was late afternoon, sun hanging low, sky all pink and gold. I didn't move. Just watched her step out of the car, fumble with her purse, and freeze when she saw the boxes stacked neatly by the door. For a second, she just stood there, blinking, like her brain couldn't quite process what she was seeing. Then she spotted me. "Hey," she said, her voice shaky. What's all this?" I stayed sitting, calm, collected. "I packed up your things," I said. "You're moving out." Her mouth opened and closed like she didn't know what to say. She took a few hesitant steps toward me. "Frank, please," she said, her voice breaking. "This isn't what you think." I just stared at her. Said nothing. She rushed forward then, dropping her purse, reaching out like she was going to touch me. I stood up before she could. Backed away. "No," I said quietly. Her face crumpled. And then came the waterworks. Big, heaving sobs. "Frank, I made a mistake," she cried. "It didn't mean anything. It was stupid. Please, we can fix this." I almost laughed. Almost. "You didn't just make a mistake," I said. "You made a choice. Over and over again." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I love you," she whispered. The same mouth that had kissed him hours before. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'll do anything. Please don't throw this away." I leaned back against the porch railing, arms crossed. "You threw it away," I said. "You and him." She collapsed onto the steps, sobbing harder now. Begging. Pleading. Promising she'd change. Promising it would be different. I let her cry. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just stood there and watched the woman I once thought I'd grow old with fall apart. And the crazy thing? I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't even feel sad. Just free. Finally free. When she realized I wasn't budging, she shifted tactics. Got angry. Started shouting about how unfair I was being, how I was ruining everything over one mistake. But it was too late. The locks were being changed the next day. The paperwork was already in motion. The lawyer was waiting for my call. The first court hearing came faster than I expected. Lisa lawyered up quick, hoping to fight for the house, the car, alimony, the works. She walked into that courtroom looking polished, composed, all smiles and fake sadness, telling anyone who would listen about how hard this divorce was on her, painting herself as the wounded wife who just wanted a second chance. But my attorney? He was ready. When the judge asked for any evidence, my lawyer calmly slid a flash drive across the table. The video, the one I'd recorded the night everything fell apart. The courtroom was silent when it played. Dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Even Lisa's lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Lisa turned pale. Her mouth fell open. But there was no talking her way out of it. No excuses. No spin. Just her, caught on camera, betraying every promise she ever made. When the judge looked back up, his face was stone. It was over before it even started. Lisa got nothing. No house. No car. No alimony. Not a dime. Just her clothes, her boxes, and the bitter taste of her own choices. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. It didn't fix everything. Didn't erase the pain. Didn't make the betrayal vanish. But it was justice. It was closure. And it was mine.